Chuck said, you need to get help. Charlie said, no, I'm not going to. He said, well, no, you know what he did was? He said, I'm going to do it for a week.
Club Random.
The woke people that you're really mad at, it's me. I want to put that face on it. This is the one.
Club Random.
Jon.
Why, hello. How are you?
Why hello? Because I asked you.
Because
That's
it was
right.
meant as just like a placeholder, like
I
why,
see.
comma, hello, like
Well,
that.
I feel like you've been dodging me.
Oh, really? Oh, really?
Well, I
what
mean,
makes
I
you
just-
feel like that? I don't. I
No,
don't
I'm
feel
being
like.
because you know, I feel like we both been in Hollywood a long time.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I got here in the late 40s. You too,
Yes,
right?
I remember back in the silent era.
You shared an apartment with Bob Mitchum for a
Yes,
while,
for
didn't
a
you?
while.
It
but
was,
he did way too much coke,
it
and
was,
I was like, I can't handle this.
actually, he was busted for marijuana.
I'm sure. You know, all kinds.
Well, that was very rare. That was in 1948. Robert Mitchum was busted for marijuana.
Yeah.
That was not something that you ever saw. I mean, I wasn't alive.
Yeah.
For the kids out there, they're like, oh,
Yes.
they probably took that at
Who's
face
this
value.
Bob Mitchum guy?
1948, that sounds about right for these
Yes.
guys. They're like 100.
Why back in my
No,
day?
I just feel like we've both been here a long time, and yet our paths never cross.
Our paths did cross.
Like I say, we're good friends.
on this here show, Politically Incorrect, which I did a couple of times.
Well, okay.
That does not count, I guess,
Well,
for you. It meant
doesn't-
nothing, apparently. Apparently, it was a meaningless
Well,
time.
that was the 90s. We were actually
Yes.
alive in the 90s, kids, and working,
Yes.
apparently.
Yes.
But, you know, first of all, the 90s is a long time ago,
Mm-hmm.
and we did 2,000 shows.
Good. That was a lot.
2,000
That's a lot.
Yeah. 5 shows a night, 9 years. It's a lot of fucking shows.
It's a lot of people yammering about their
it was-
politics.
I mean,
And it all blends into this political mush after a
Well,
while, I'm sure.
I mean, time plus like 2,000 shows times 4 people on each show, that's 8,000 people.
yeah.
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 But
so.
what was your memory of it? Were you happy with it?
Oh
was
yeah.
it fun?
Oh, I had a good time. I had a good time.
I
What
vaguely remember you doing well.
Yes, I remember. I remember one older woman who was very anti-immigration, and I remember she drove me batty. But I feel like I zinged her a couple of times. I was like, "You're an old lady." I think that was the height of my
Yeah,
repartee.
but who looks stupid now?
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
No, I mean, I think the whole country, even unless you're like stupid woke, I hope you're not, but you know,
I'm
it is Hollywood.
somewhat stupidly woke.
Okay. The whole country was like, I mean, I think the biggest issue for the election, one of the biggest ones, was Democrats pointlessly, totally just punted on immigration and let anybody who wanted to walk in for 3.5 years did. And, you know,
Well, I think they would probably disagree that people walking in probably felt like it was a
Oh.
little harder.
no, actually, there's a great 60 Minutes piece on it where the border, I mean, you don't get 8 million people here by making it difficult. But they just, I mean, you see they're walking through and that border guys are just watching them do it.
Mm.
They're just watching them walk past. You never saw that?
I did not see that.
See, that
No.
doesn't get in the liberal media. That's the problem, is the bubbles we live in.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, 60 Minutes arguably is the liberal media. So I don't think that.
right. But 60 Minutes is still a show that I think, you know, can, not as consistent as it used to, but they do things like that.
Mhm.
They also did a great piece some years ago about a woman in London who was in the Muslim neighborhoods, and, you know, they're screaming at her because she's wearing a skirt and stuff like that. And, you know, the point of it was, you know, there are places in Western civilizations that are like run not by Western standards.
Mhm.
And that doesn't mean they're just different.
Well, yeah, but I mean, there are cultural enclaves everywhere. You know,
Right, but we should agree that women should be able to wear what they want.
yes.
If you don't agree with that, then you're not a liberal to begin with.
Well,
Women,
yes.
call me a crazy liberal, but I think women should have freedom.
I agree as well.
Okay.
I agree as well.
But they don't in these neighborhoods. It was the 60 Minutes piece that they did.
One could argue that that women don't have the freedom to dress where they are in dress how they want to dress in many places. They used to get catcalled all the time. They used to, there was
Used to.
Well,
we're talking about now.
Well,
yeah, a lot of shit used to happen, but what's going on now in the world? Would you really want to have your wife live in Gaza or any place where? No, well, I mean before
war-torn strip of desert.
No, even before the war, where she would have to cover up.
Well, again, that's not. I don't live there. It's not my culture.
And you won't judge it.
I'm not going to judge it. No, but again, this is not
crazy woke to me.
Okay.
That's where it all went off the rails. When we became so tolerant that we tolerate intolerance. I mean, you would never allow something like that to happen in this country. If they proposed a law tomorrow at the LA City Council, women have to cover their face when they go out. I assume you'd be against that.
Well, yes, I would. But again, there are all, again, this is a long subject that
we stumbled onto.
We stumbled onto, exactly. I also, this was started with the immigration, which, I don't feel like demonizing immigrants and migrants and saying that you want to deport millions of people. I think the history of mass deportations is horrifying.
But there's but we weren't talking about deportations. Of course, that's horrifying.
Yes.
And an overcorrection. What we were talking about was letting
Democrats
too many people in to begin with.
But too many people, and what? Well, again, this is going to be a long conversation that we probably. Is this how you want to spend your time?
I never have any plan.
You did 2,000 episodes of Politically Incorrect.
I never have any.
And you're still going down this.
I never have any plan for this show.
Oh, okay.
Plainly.
Yes, clearly.
So, yeah, if you don't want to talk about that politics at all.
Well,
I shouldn't, because I really started this podcast to get away from it. So you're right. I kind of fucked up.
Yes.
But I don't know. Sometimes people say things that trigger me. And of course, we just had the election, and I feel like my conscience is very clear. I warned everybody about Trump, and then I warned them about what would get him reelected, which was stupid wokeness, which is what got him reelected. So I feel my conscience is very clear that I told you and I told you and I told you, and I lost fans for it. Lots of the super woke that's like, I'm not woke enough for them. Yeah, but like, I think I had it right. Like, that kind of stuff is what lost the election for the Democrats. It's in all.
Maybe part of it. I don't know. I think a lot.
They have polling on it.
I think it's inflation. I think Americans hate inflation.
That certainly was
They hate
part
inflation, they hate riots, and they hate black women.
They
hate trans people.
Oh, God, John, we're not
Dude,
gonna.
they just spent hundreds of millions of dollars
don't hate
demonizing trans people. And that's disgusting.
Yeah, we shouldn't talk politics.
Okay, we shouldn't. We shouldn't.
This is,
great. We don't have to.
No. And this, I have this kind of relationship with people on the right also who like, yeah, it's just going to take so long to even have this discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And I want, just like I would like to deprogram them, I feel like there's things that don't get in your bubble on the left that I would love to deprogram, but it's probably not the place to do it.
Yeah.
But,
you can try. if that's how you want to spend your leisure hours.
No, I mean
deprogramming Ducky. There's a spinoff. There's a spinoff. But I feel like the immigration argument gets sidetracked because people just assume that there's a lot of generalizations about immigrants that dehumanize them and are untrue. You are mad that they let that many immigrants in because you think they increase crime? Because they don't. Because they increase they decrease wages. Well, no, they don't. There's a whole bunch of arguments that anti-immigration people make, and you say, okay, Democrats left them in.
I'm not an anti-immigration people.
You say.
What I said was,
well, wait a minute.
Okay. Okay.
So
Sorry.
you're the one saying Democrats are letting in immigrants, and they
Well,
just
they did.
they punted it. Okay, you're absolutely right. Immigration did go up during those years.
Well, asylum. They changed the definition of
Of
asylum,
asylum,
and they
yes.
immediately reversed Trump's like stay in Mexico or wait in Mexico or something. He had
Yes,
a different
chill out in
policy. I
Mexico.
mean,
Is that
chill out in
yeah.
Mexico. Yes, and
Just fucking chill, man. Wait
and
there.
we were still, letting in as we should. We are a nation of immigrants, and we need immigrants.
There you
But
go.
most Americans felt, including lots of Democrats and people of color, and he won the Latino vote by half. You know, come on, man. Like at a certain point, everybody was around the idea that, okay, immigration, fine, but it has to be somewhat orderly. And not anyone who,
Yes, and
and
again,
asylum had a certain specific meaning, which
yes.
went up in the air. They overcorrected.
You
We
could be
probably,
right. I don't know.
yeah,
But I also feel like obviously you can say Democrats took too long to address it, but then they did, and Trump, of course, killed it. So he doesn't care about that. And again,
that's true too.
you've been
That's true
outspoken,
too.
and I and I
He did
and
kill
I
it.
appreciate that, by the way, for you that you were being outspoken. I appreciate that you lost fans. And you know what, they needed more free time. It's better that they don't watch your show.
It actually is.
I'm sorry.
Actually is because they're here's how I know they changed and not me. It used to be the conservatives, the Jerry Falwell types, who you would do a stick up their ass joke about.
Mhm.
Now it's the woke. They're the ones with the stick up their ass. They're the ones who don't have a sense of humor. They're the ones who are too sensitive. They're the ones, marching for Hamas, doing things like that. Prayers for
Yeah, again, I think conflating people marching for, to not have Israelis, the IDF carpet bombing is different than marching for Hamas. And yes, Hamas is a terrorist organization. They are a mafia organization. I do not support them in any way.
well,
Again, yes, I know they are going to
common
be saying,
ground.
"Wow, Ducky is not on our side.
Ducky.
This is crushing to our movement.
Ducky.
We've lost Ducky." But my point being that conflating those two, and obviously there are outrages on the right and there are outrages on the left, and the right wing media ecosystem, is just a constant outrage engine, and
Constant.
and that is very pernicious to America, to having a nation.
So I was only watching MSNBC. Not
Yeah.
as bad.
Uh-huh.
I mean, the right wing is definitely more dangerous because they don't believe in conceding elections.
Yes, exactly.
We are already past what I called, even before he won the first time, a slow-moving coup.
Yes.
Because when one side concedes, as the Democrats just did, and one side we know would not,
Yes.
you're already past democracy. You are already. I mean, they make it sound like, oh, we had a smooth election. Yeah, smooth when they win. That's not good enough for me. It has to be smooth when whoever wins.
Yes, I agree.
So I have this in perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. But what drives them crazy, the reason why they are willing to do these basically traitorous extra-constitutional things like not concede elections is because they think the left is so crazy that whatever they have to do to retain power is worth it, because if the left takes over, they will destroy life as we know it. I don't think that's true, but when you see some of the things that the left has championed lately, you do wonder,
Yeah,
and like I said on my show last week, you lost a crazy contest to an actual crazy person.
Okay, that's funny, but I disagree.
That
he's
a crazy
you're right.
person.
I agree that he's
and
crazy.
they lost the contest.
And you're right, and they lost the contest. So yeah, it's funny, and you're right. But but I'm going to reel that back in just because.
It's interesting to watch you,
Mm-hmm.
having seen you so much on television,
Mm-hmm.
that you I'm not saying you didn't need the script, but I see that you just you know, you just are funny, like with the timing and the thing, even without a script.
Oh, well, thank you, and you too.
Yeah, but that's all I have. I'm not an actor.
Ah, got
See,
it.
I never have a script
Uh-huh.
except the one I write.
Uh-huh.
And it's not this kind of script. And actors are not. It's not in the job requirement to actually be funny.
Mhm.
You know, but you just have that thing. The way you play off something and then
Well, that's kind of you to say.
yeah. No, I'm sure
You know,
that's why you've had the career you've had.
I've been lucky and had a lot of great experiences, and this is it's with the industry sort of figuring out what it is again. It makes me grateful for all the opportunities I've had.
I think you were lucky being born the person you were who had that timing
Yes,
and that quick mind. That was the lucky part. I don't think
yes.
the career itself was lucky. I think, show business is full of bullshit, but I've always thought the cream rises to the top.
Well, it's very kind of
There's
you
a
to say.
lot of
Thank you.
bullshit in the middle, and anyone can be a success for 2 years or something.
Mhm.
But careers that last, that doesn't happen unless there's something that, is connecting and they're hitting the ball.
Mhm.
They're consistently hitting
Well,
it.
thank you,
Well,
I've loved the vast majority of it. This is the downslide,
right
right.
here on this show.
This is the moment that it's all curdling. I was doing great up until this moment. No, I'm actually enjoying myself a great deal.
Hey, we can cut all the political part out of it if you want.
Oh no, whatever
No, I'm not
whatever
kidding.
you're comfortable with. I'm
Okay.
I'm happy to talk. Actually, one of
No,
the
no.
reasons that I wanted to that I'm happy to talk about it. Is it's a terrifying time in our history. Unfortunately,
It is.
the Supreme Court has removed the guardrails in a terrifying way. Now the Republicans
Agreed.
don't have. There's no meaningful resistance. There was in the first term.
That's
There was a certain normalcy bias that
okay.
they had, but
The, I gutted the left like a fish last week. And
thanks.
some of the woke people who are no longer fans would have hated it.
Okay.
Zillions of other people loved it because they deserved it. But I'm just bringing this up to say the concluding remarks after I told them that the Democratic Party had turned into a Portlandia sketch
Again,
was
I felt like they tacked to the right quite a bit in this. In this,
again
they tacked to the right on immigration.
You're a
And
Hollywood in the bubble, blue sky.
dude,
I know this
and
town.
you're a man of the people, Bill. Is
Much
that it?
more.
Much. Oh, really? And
You're
is
part
this-
of you're
is
part of the
this
Hollywood
it?
community that is embraced. I am not,
Uh-huh.
and that's okay.
I disagree. We embrace you.
No,
I almost literally embraced you when you came in the room. I don't
all
agree,
right.
Bill Maher. I do not agree.
We won't get off on that.
Okay.
But we will get off. Produced by Chuck Lorre. Actually,
Zing.
I'm not saying it's going to happen,
Uh-huh.
but this is also a show. Because what do you want on a show? Conflict.
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely. I'll take it.
You did it like where
Mhm.
you were, with Pussy Hound Guy.
Sure. That's you could call him that.
And that may be why you and our paths never crossed.
Mhm.
Because I was more Charlie Sheen for many years.
Oh, really?
Never got married. You're married.
Yes.
No kids. I would be out at places you probably weren't out at.
Probably not. Yeah.
Although I think I caught you out of the corner of my eye at one of Diddy's freak offs.
Well,
but you were baking.
I had to swing by. No, I never met the man. I wish him the best.
Did he? You never met him?
I've never met him. Yeah, I consider myself lucky. Never met Jeffrey Epstein either.
Wouldn't it be funny if he got out of prison and they said, "How was it in there?" He said, "The only thing that saved me was we watched reruns of 2.5 Men every night."
Yeah, that would.
Suge Knight told me politically incorrect.
Really?
He said he watched it every night in prison.
Huh.
And I'm guessing it's a communal TV.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like,
That's
who gets to rule? It was
I
like
know
the
who
old.
gets to pick that.
Well, I'm guessing Suge Knight probably
Yes,
had more
you're
cred,
right. He probably has more cred.
But you and I in a prison movie, I think, would
That's
be.
what the public is yearning
And
for.
we're like, we're escaped. We're having a gun battle, and we're doing that thing in movies where they have snappy dialogue
Like in between the
during
shots.
a gun battle.
Yes, poop, poop. Listen, man, it's a Butch and Sundance moment. Who are those guys? Yes, that's
like
what
Bad Boys.
America
Like
needs.
I told you not to talk to my sister.
Yeah.
It's like really in the middle of the gunfight.
I'm sure when you're afraid for your life, that's when the quips really kick in. I'm sure the Noel Coward in you comes out at that moment.
Exactly.
But no, I guess our Hollywood paths did not cross. But again, I enjoyed coming on your show, and I do, I understand why a lot of actors don't want to talk about politics. I get it. Because as an artist, you want people to just enjoy your art. And I still
Right.
enjoy. There's plenty of people whose politics I strongly disagree with, but I still enjoy their art. I mean,
Right.
there's John Voight movies that I will love till the day I die because he's an amazing actor.
And he's not a monster because
And he's not a monster. No, I know him actually.
I mean,
I've met him, and
I'm all for
he's
trying
always
to.
asking about my mom. In a nice way. Don't worry, I'm not casting aspersions. He was like, "How's your mother?" Oh well, John, she's fine. But anyway, I apologize.
No, but just finishing what I was saying before about, yes, I gutted them, but only so I could get to the end where I said, I'm mad at the Democrats because the issues that are important to me, because that's always a big thing in elections, what issues are important to
Bill Maher,
to you, the voter? My issues are democracy,
yes,
and the environment. And now, because the Democrats did what I told them not to do, and went to crazy town way too often. Now you blew it. You blew it. You blew it.
I did not. But go
And
ahead.
lost everything.
Wow.
So I have no one to champion and defend my issues.
But I
Democracy and the
I would say all
environment.
of the wokeness that outraged you so much was Republican framing, was right-wing media framing.
Oh,
that I mean,
God.
again,
Please, John,
yes,
that's
I
not
am
the
telling you
case.
this.
No.
I am yes, that
It's
is the
not
case.
framing.
That is the case.
I do
Bill
this
Maher.
I do this for a living.
Okay.
I have a whole staff to vet this. I'm very suspicious of everything from the left or the right. So if you're telling me that I've been hoodwinked,
Oh, I'm not telling you you've been hoodwinked.
I haven't.
I think everybody deals with framing in different ways. You can either deal with the frame and say, "No, I'm afraid you're wrong," which I've seen you do. You say you can,
Correct.
Or you can say, "Wait, I don't even believe in the framing. I disagree with the whole framing of the question."
I believe in facts. I believe, for example, we're going to get into this now.
Okay.
But like America is the only country that does transgender policy the way we do now. We used to be closer to Sweden.
I'm sorry, you got to be more specific.
Kids can, what do you call gender affirmation? Okay, have the operation.
Okay, you understand first of all that the biggest, the most prevalent gender affirming surgery is breast removal, tissue removal for cisgender male boys. Okay,
but
so
we're not
understand
talking
people.
about that.
Okay, but the reason I'm bringing it up is because if people are okay with people are always saying we don't want young people making those decisions for lifelong decisions when they're still very young. I mean that seems to be what people are.
Well, that's where Europe, where all the liberal countries that we used to be aligned with on this issue a few years ago, we are not. I'm just saying, let's not even get into the details.
Honestly,
let's just get into the fact. Just start with the fact that America does this in a way nobody else does. That doesn't mean, I'm not saying it's necessarily definitely wrong, although I do think it is. But no other country does self-diagnosis by children, no age limit.
That's not what's occurring.
That is what is occurring.
It's not occurring.
Or it certainly
and by
can.
the way, the thing you're talking about is a thing called the Dutch Protocol, which obviously started in Holland.
Started in Holland. Yes, I'm familiar.
Yes, okay. So Europe So you're saying U.S. doesn't use the things that Europe does, but
which
they do.
they abandoned.
Well, no, they did not abandon it.
Yeah, they
no,
did.
And we can argue about the Cass review as well. I'm aware of it.
Right,
Yes,
England.
which did not, which its conclusions did not match its own data. But okay, we'll talk about that later if you're open to
That's
that.
too
But
in the weeds.
okay, but see,
I'm-
that's what I'm saying is the truth is in the weeds, dude. And
No,
and
I'm for the
unfortunately,
audience too in the weeds.
okay.
I mean, it's and maybe for me at this point, because I don't have the Cass report right in my mind.
Aha.
Many people who are saying, "What is that?" A British woman who
Yes.
is a pediatrician and also was this
what
was
happened
her
was
field of study.
There was a big controversy
She did
about
a
the
report, and-
NHS. Yes,
Yeah.
about the NHS transgender care, and unfortunately, the NHS is under a lot of scrutiny for many things because national health care is often very controversial because people have to prioritize very specific care for specific people, and it's hard to do that in a governmental way.
Correct.
But there was a lot of people saying that kids who were going through gender dysphoria were not getting enough care before they were making lifelong decisions, and that's a concern, absolutely. But the report said that they were actually getting enough care, but they as a society were using it as a way to say we don't want this to even be a possibility for people under 18. And so at any rate.
Right, and that's too far. And like it's a shame that we can't ever just meet in the middle of what's common sense. Like Trump, I see they're not letting somebody use the bathroom.
Exactly.
I mean, it's just
again.
Can we just not do stupid on either side?
But see, what I'm saying is that parents who have kids who are going through severe gender dysphoria have very limited options to begin with, and they're usually trying to think about the survival of their child, and so limiting what they have access to,
and
when there actually is an enormous amount of statistical evidence that supported the Dutch protocols. I think it's wrong to limit for government to limit what they feel is the appropriate medical treatment.
There are cases where it is appropriate, I think.
Okay,
I think this is the standard liberal position. And then there's like the people who won't admit that some of this is social contagion. Some of this is just a TikTok trend that got out of hand.
I don't agree.
And that's okay. And that's
Yeah.
that's what friends are for.
Okay.
To be able to come to it and go, okay, we've elucidated our points enough. People get where we're coming from, and they just, they'll trust me. In this town, everybody, you'll be the big champion. You own Bill Maher because they just want to agree with you. And my take on this, just as like super friend to friend now, is just like the people in this town. They just want to be warriors, social justice warriors. So they're just always looking for a cause. And it's so much more often about them than the cause itself. Not that they're not sincere about stuff, but like what bugs Dave Chappelle so much about the trans thing, I think it's the fact that they want to make it the social justice issue of their generation. And it just doesn't compare to other ones. It's important. It's an issue.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's great. We live in a time when trans people can be, respected and protected. But you're asking too much often to rewrite, like the idea that when someone is born, there is a default setting for humans, male and female. Not everyone is. Now, a real conservative would say, no, everyone is. I would never say that.
But
I think
what
a liberal says
there are chromosomal spectrums.
there's a default.
There's
a default setting,
hermaphroditism.
but then there's a whole other other section, and that's great, and we should protect those people. But don't pretend there isn't also a default setting. And you can't rewrite the world so that every baby is just a jump ball. Oh, it could be anything. No, if it's got a dick, it's probably a boy. And if it's
Probably.
not, we'll deal with that. We'll deal with that in a compassionate way.
Well, yeah,
but we'll also be apprised of the idea that children don't know shit about anything. Yes, sometimes it is obvious, and we should address it that way. But I mean, kids, Christ almighty. I mean, the idea that I would, as a child, would have had to have dealt with something like this.
Well, again, the people that go through it don't say this is the life I want. No parent wants to be in the midst of those choices. It's
Some kids
terrifying.
these days actually just do want to be trans.
I
It's
don't
cooler,
agree.
John.
I don't
It's
agree.
a thing.
Nope.
Oh,
I don't agree.
come
I
on.
don't agree with Bill
I
Maher.
don't.
That's the name of the show tonight.
Well, your eyes are not open to that. I
Okay.
think.
Well,
I really.
okay. You
There
can,
are some kids.
yeah.
Especially, why is it like so much more prevalent, like here than Indiana?
Well,
Are they suppressing it there? Maybe a little.
yeah, there's
but
a societal
but
suppression, but it's like left-handedism. Being left-handed was suppressed for for
Yes.
thousands of years amongst human beings. But once it was apparently in the 30s, scientists basically said there's no left-handedness doesn't actually do anything bad.
Right.
Left-handedness shot up. People just stopped training themselves to be right-handed. And this has
Well,
happened societally before,
it's
and that's the closest analog that I can think of.
Okay, but I think the numbers are faulty in that one. I mean, how many people are left-handed? 15%, something like that.
It went from like 8%
So you think
to
that
15%.
15% of us are born in the wrong body?
I don't know, but I do believe that parents who are dealing with that situation in their child need to be able to make those decisions.
I don't think it's as high as 50%. It is a certain percent,
yeah.
but okay, but
statistician in Bill Maher shows
but numbers
up.
matter.
No, they do. They
Numbers
do. But again,
matter.
But what bothers me is that this becomes an issue to demonize people. I mean,
but I'm not demonizing.
I know. I'm not saying you are. But I'm saying the right wing framing is, and it often starts with danger to your children, danger to your women. The trans people are going in your bathroom. And of course, by the way, these bills that are ahead in Congress right now are to force trans women into men's bathroom, also force trans men into women's bathroom. And these, I don't think Nancy Mace really gets that she's inviting a bunch of trans men into her her bathroom. I don't think she gets that.
It's horrible. It's horrible. And I agree with.
But again, the demonization that they spent hundreds of millions of dollars demonizing trans people was fucking loathsome.
Well,
loathsome.
That's politics, sweetheart.
No,
people,
it's not.
You
but again,
give them an opening. Excuse me. You give them an opening like
people deserve respect. Yeah, that's the opening.
That's oh God. Deprogrammer, please come in soon.
Okay.
She would
Can we get the deprogrammer?
When
I want to deprogram you.
Yeah, well, you're doing a bad.
You do this for a living.
Here's what she would not condemn. She had said when they asked her, "Are you for operations in prisons, taxpayer paid, in prisons for prisoners who want to transition?" Okay. She just said, "I'll follow the law." She wouldn't say, "No, you know what? I said that in 2019. That goes too far."
Well, except
maybe she would have been somewhat in the race if she said something like that.
But again, this happens. As you said, the statistical amount of trans people is so small, and this happens on so few occasions, and this is statistically meaningless.
You just said it was 15%.
No, but I didn't say that. You said it. You're the. I said, I'm talking about left-handedness.
Well, you said it could.
But I said I don't know. Yeah, I don't know the statistics.
It does. But just from
my point.
From just looking around the world, you don't think 15% is a little high for that?
Yeah, it might be. Again, I'd be guessing.
But see, here's the thing. You're right about a lot of this. What the right does demonize.
Yes, and that's horrifying.
Oh God, it's politics. Of course, you have to assume that the other side is going to use your vulnerable points. But here's what the left demonizes. They would take my conversation with you right now, which is in no way illiberal, and say I'm some sort of bigot, because in the left's view, the far left anyway, any just questioning of this is a mic drop. Oh, you're a bigot. I mean, it happened on CNN recently. Like, I will not sit here and hear someone called a boy, and they're talking about someone who's trans, but it's like, we're so pure. We know everything. That's the given. So any discussion of this is bigotry to begin with. And that's not where we are with this issue.
Well, I'll tell you, I can tell you why they feel like that, if it helps you. They feel like that because when their very capability of being a person is questioned, when just the idea that they exist is questioned,
Agreed.
they
terrible.
are dehumanized, and they say that it's bigotry. Now, again, somebody calling you a bigot, you can take offense and get angry at
I
that.
do.
Okay. But again, you're fine. Somebody called you a bigot. People have called me all kinds of awful things.
Really?
You know,
What do they call you? Who could be mad at you?
people are mad at me. You're mad at me. No, you're not.
I'm
mad
not mad at you. I actually admire you for engaging.
Oh, well, happy to.
You didn't have to.
No, I didn't. It's true. What
But
the
it's
fuck am I
kind of-
doing
it's
here?
kind of fun. It's kind of fun to let it out, isn't it?
Yeah, I have, the trans people in my life feel at this point really frightened,
Who are the trans people in your life, if I may ask?
Well, no, frankly, that's my own business, and
Okay,
it's not,
that's fine. I just-
but it is they're in a place where they're personally terrified right now, because not only was this election was the outrage cycle of this particular election targeted them, but it was accepted, and people accept that it's like, okay, yeah, we dehumanized them. It was politics.
Well, another
whatever.
reason why the Democrats shouldn't have blown it.
Well, again,
So,
you can blame them all you want.
I do.
I believe again that there is a worldwide reaction to the inflation bump after COVID. Everybody, as I said, Americans hate inflation.
You keep telling
They hate
yourself that, and,
riots.
you'll lose the next one too.
And
if they lose the
I'm not
next-
running, but okay.
No, well, I mean, the party that it's funny, we voted for the same person.
Yes.
We, are generally supportive of the same party.
Mhm.
We just have very different views on like how to deal with that.
Yeah, we do. But again, I felt like the Democrats, in the very limited amount of time they had to fight this election, did cant to the right a lot.
The time has nothing to do with it. You could do it in 2 weeks. If anything, she had too much time. She was doing good for the first 2 months, the joy shit. And then it just, it's so antiquated, this idea that people need more than, she had 107 days. It would have been better if she had 7. Other countries don't take 100 days.
I will 100% agree with you that it takes way too long and it's ridiculous.
We get it. We get it
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah.
It's not like we have to go and see them at the end of a train station where they were doing a whistle.
It's
remember
not, yes,
that when
it's
the
not
president- the back
1910.
the back of the train.
Yes.
And that's
or Lincoln, having to
that
get
must have been like a big thing.
going
Like,
on a tour.
are you going to go see Garfield Saturday? He's going to be in the back of a train.
Yes, he's going to be yelling from the back of a train. I think he said something that I agree with. I don't know what he said.
You must have done a Western.
I have never done. Oh, well, I did sort of a punk Western, but it was a modern day Western, so it doesn't really count.
You could redo the Don Knotts movies.
I have been approached by that. I've been
you would
approached to
be
do
a
the Incredible Mr. Limpet. I swear to God.
You are born to no, really. And
I got nothing but respect for Don Knotts. Don Knotts was a master. He was a fucking master.
Oh my
I think
God.
he was great.
I
think he was great.
I could not agree more.
Yeah.
He was, and the movies, which I think are not really, I don't know why. I never see one on, the channels. But as a kid, Mr. Limpet, and there's some chicken in the West. He was a coward in the Old West.
Yes, there you go.
And
okay.
I think this is like
I God bless him. He left behind a wonderful body of work.
Yeah,
But,
didn't he win like the Emmy like 8 years in a row as Barney Fife? Something like that. It was like, something-
Andy? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he's a genius. He's a genius. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Who are the other ones like that you look up to?
Jack Lemmon I thought was pretty amazing.
Yeah. Jack Lemmon could do serious drama,
Mm-hmm.
and he could
Yeah.
also be the, high energy kind of fun,
Yeah. Just
What you ever see Save the Tiger?
yeah. Yes.
Now that's a movie.
Yeah.
That's a '70s movie, and I mean that as a compliment.
70s was a
The
fucking
best.
golden
Right,
era. I
golden
mean,
era.
Taking
Yeah.
a Pelham still is one of the
Taking of the
great.
Ring. Yeah, they redid it with Denzel. It was good, but not
And
as good.
no, no.
The sneeze at the end.
Yes. No, what was great about Taking Pelham is it's New York City in 1974, whatever, and
Yeah.
every single New Yorker is a wise ass. Every single one. And it's true. It's fucking true. That's how everybody was in 1974.
You think they're different in New York now? I think
No, my mom's still there, actually. She's
Oh, really?
she's 89, still living on the Upper West Side of Manhattan.
I lived on the west side of Manhattan, and when I was doing Politically Incorrect.
Oh, really?
First, I lived on the east side in a residential hotel across from Smith and Walensky's Plaza 50.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Sure.
Smith and Walensky.
You-
Sure. I remember Smith.
Okay. Okay.
Walensky's.
Then I lived on 70th in this building that was kind of distinctive. It like had a name for it. It had all this Egyptian art on the walls or something. Anyway,
Okay. I don't know.
70th and Broadway. But New York and I never got along.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I grew up there. I'm born on born.
I was just there.
Yeah,
I
West
just played
Side.
the Beacon. I mean, I love it for a weekend, but like living there, I found to be tough.
It's not for everybody.
It's not for everybody. First of all, you just have to like or be okay with living in buildings. It's like,
Okay.
it's
Well,
just
that's
not.
most of human history of people have lived in buildings, Bill.
No, they haven't. They lived in.
Oh, you mean in
single
multiple
dwellings?
Single dwellings.
Like I don't live in a building. I live.
Oh.
I live next door.
But I don't. I like living in I like apartment living. The best thing about apartment living, and is superintendents. Is just guys who you just call up and say, "Get in here," because something has gone horribly wrong. And that you don't have in your single family home. You don't. There's not somebody you can. Well, maybe in yours.
Saying, the last time I had a super is when I lived on 8th Avenue in New York, and it was not.
It was
as
not
you
the,
portray it.
It was not the dream service situation that I'm
I used to get a
throwing
knock
out
on
there.
the door. Doosan. He would come in, and I believe he was Colombian, and he had he was running some weird shit out of the building, and I mean, could you get him to do something? Yes, but I mean, this was on 8th Avenue. It was. You sound like you lived in a nicer sort of building where the super was. I don't know.
No, I mean, no. My mom, when I was growing up on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, it was not a great neighborhood at the time. It has since become very gentrified. But at the time, no, it was. We had heroin addicts coming in and stealing our fixtures. They would steal the whatever lamps there were on the walls and stuff. We had bulletproof glass in the lobby and stuff.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the Wild West. I mean, the closest thing to the Wild West was we had a neighbor, Mr. Green, who Mr. Green used to come by and he would bring oxtail soup for my mother. He was very nice, bald gentleman. And he was, well, is your mother around? Well, I brought some oxtail soup. Well, I do not know, but Mr. Green had a secret double life. One night we're in the house and we hear a pop, pop, and somebody runs down the stairs, and my mom was like, "What the fuck happened?" And it turns out Mr. Green he liked to partake of ladies of the evening. God bless him, Mr. Green. But this one particular lady of the evening had shown up, but then showed up with her boyfriend, who proceeded to tie up Mr. Green.
Boyfriend? You mean
yes.
him?
Yes. I'm I'm a romantic. I prefer to see it as just a love relationship.
It is, of sorts.
Of sorts. At any rate, he tied up Mr. Green and started to ransack his house.
Did?
The pimp did.
Wow.
Tied him up next to his bed. But Mr. Green reached under his bed and found a pistol aimed from the hip. Swear to God, from the hip, because Mr. Green was tied up.
Just like in a movie.
It's just like in a movie, and shot the guy in the head, between the fucking eyes. And the next time when he came over with the oxtail soup, he insisted I come over to the house so he could show me where the bullets ricocheted. So that was That was my building growing up. But mostly it was nice.
But if you called the police, would Kojak come over?
Just because of the resemblance.
No, I'm just saying.
But the 70s,
Kojak
yes,
was the great
was
70s.
the great
Do you remember
70s.
Kojak?
Yes, Telly Savalas. Who loves you, baby? Yeah, he had famous for having a lollipop. That was Telly Savalas's.
Why don't they
signature.
show that one? They should redo that one. That was a great character.
Kojak. Maybe it's time.
No.
Shave the beard.
You're
Come
not.
on.
You're not Kojak.
I don't have the.
Kojak
if Don Knotts.
Kojak ain't woke. Let
Maybe
me tell
not.
you, bro.
Maybe
Kojak
not.
ain't woke.
Yes, I'll do some research on
Kojak is the guy who says to the judge,
Mhm.
"Yeah, you see the defendants, and I see their victims. I got to get the scum off the street."
Yes, that was the 70s was the scum off the street. But it was also Serpico, and there was it was also it was an interestingly grungy, awful period. Whenever I see period movies about the 70s, I'm like, there's not enough litter. We need more litter. I don't buy it until the litter is fucking a foot deep. But oh man,
good.
But actually,
good corn.
the reason I came on this podcast, besides that I enjoy your work a lot, I must plug.
Please,
but it is actually
plug.
relevant.
Please,
because basically I've got a podcast that I produced. I'm not in it, but I produced it. That is coming out called "The Man Who Calculated Death," and it is an insane story that absolutely fell in my lap.
The man who calculated
death. Yes.
Interesting.
Absolutely insane story. Basically, I was at a dinner party with a friend of my wife, and she, at one point, she knew I was a big fan of the space program. The history of the space program is something I'm fascinated with. And she said, "Oh, my grandpa worked on the space program." And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome." And she said, "Yeah." And then before that, he worked for Hitler. But anyway, and she
really?
She continued
like
on
that?
with the conversation.
Werner von Braun?
Actually, he worked with Werner von Braun because she had been on.
We had a lot of Nazis.
Yes, she had been on this crazy journey because 2 years before we had this conversation, her mother had been diagnosed with cancer, and literally on her deathbed, her mother admitted to her. She said, "I've been writing a memoir for 5 years now, but I won't finish it because I'm dying. Will you finish it for me?"
Wow.
And so Suzanne had to, her name is Suzanne Rico. She was an anchor woman here in Los Angeles. That's how my wife knew her. Suzanne had to go back through her family's history that she'd only kind of dimly been aware of, and discover that her grandfather actually was a guy named Robert Lesser, who was one of Hitler's most important scientists. He invented the V1, which was, he and Werner von Braun were in a race to make secret super weapons for Hitler. So
my mother was in London when those bombs fell on it.
Exactly, and they terrorized London. And so Suzanne basically had to go on this journey, sort of rediscovering her family's history and understanding, what the family went through to get through World War II, and Operation Paperclip, secretly bringing the Nazis to the United States,
Right.
and plopping them down.
That's what it was called?
Operation Paperclip. Yes,
I never knew that.
Yes, it's a fascinating story.
Well, here's a moral question.
Okay.
And it probably for our show that we're going to do called The Purist and the Pragmatist. The pragmatist would say bringing ex-Nazis here to run our space program was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
What does the purist say? You agree with that?
The purist, the argument at the time was these were the good ones.
No, the argument was we need a space program before the Russians get one.
Yes.
And Nazis know how to do it because Germans are smart and efficient. I always say this about Germans. They're so efficient that when they turn their efficiency toward mass death,
even then,
it was bad for death. But it's true. They're just not, it's not like their ambitions to wipe out people was any different than Genghis Khan or lots of other people. They had 20th century technology, and they just are so crazy efficient, Germans, and specific and detailed. So like when it was like, how do we kill all the Jews? It was like,
be efficient about it, I guess.
Did you see that movie, The Zone of
Interest. Yes, I did see that movie.
No Interest.
Yeah, it was a little slow.
It was
I will
right.
say the movie was
What
a little
I got
slow.
out of it. No, I didn't. No, it was not bad. But what I got
Yeah.
out of it was a kind of a movie version of the famous saying from Hannah Arendt, "The banality of evil."
Yes.
It was, and of course, if you're showing banality in a movie,
It's a little slow.
it could have used Chuck Lorre to punch it up a little.
Oh God!
It's just,
Oh.
you come
Yeah.
in and you're just like this bumbling guard from that because you're,
Well,
if you don't know the story, this German family and they have this wonderful idyllic life in the Lebensraum, the living space that Hitler wanted, but it's right next to Auschwitz.
Yes. Oh, darn. That's the only place that we could get a big enough place for the family. Well, actually, it's interesting because that's what a big chunk of the podcast is about is a family, what happens to a family as authoritarianism gradually takes over their country.
Where?
I'm sorry, in Germany.
That's what the podcast
That's
is
what the podcast is
in
about.
Germany.
Yes, because it's about
what year?
Because Robert Lesser, the guy who it's about, the man who calculated death, he was a famous German pilot. He actually built his own planes that he flew and became a celebrity, actually. And his family, he became an engineer. He invented the Bf-109, which is probably the most famous fighter plane.
So the 40s is this?
Yes. So this goes from the 20s.
The war ends in 45. Then we import the Nazis.
Yes, he actually was in hiding for a couple of years after the war because he was sure he would be tried for war crimes. But then the CIA found him, and rather the precursor to the CIA, the OSS.
Yes.
And brought him to the United States illegally at the time. Undocumented immigrants,
we need,
but it was interesting because that's a lot. The podcast goes into what exactly was he complicit in, what wasn't he complicit in. Some of the V1s were built at concentration camps.
Well, I would listen to that. That's interesting.
And Suzanne Rico did an amazing job.
Can I hear this?
It's on Apple Podcasts as we speak, Spotify.
Oh, it is right now.
It's exclusive to Wondery Plus. So if you subscribe to Wondery Plus,
so what is the title one more time?
The Man Who Calculated Death. It's clearly a catchy title.
I'm the man who smoked pot, so I don't hate me for man who calculated.
This is probably not the optimum time to approach you.
This is totally
about this
the optimum time.
Oh, really? Okay.
This is when I'm at my best.
Okay.
I never drink all week. I save it for this. It's the joy of my life to be able to get to know somebody. It's usually not this contentious, but I don't.
That's okay.
But if it's okay with you, it's okay with me.
It is, yes.
Because I
do
love honesty and I love getting right to what do we really think and feel. And I also just love that we can continue and it's like, okay, he's him, I'm me. We're not the, da-da-da-da-da.
Yes.
It's like, but we still have so much in common and can like each other and just go, there's always going to be things about other people. You're going to go, I don't know why, I can't believe they think that way. But,
well,
it doesn't matter.
And again, I do want to compliment you, especially in the context of talking about the rise of authoritarianism is you have been a very clear voice. Talking about the very specific issues that have arisen.
Nobody was taking me seriously about Trump for the longest time. And it was like obvious to me, this is someone who can never say, I lost, I concede an election. He couldn't do, I do this in my act, but I'll just say it to you.
Okay.
I don't want to be, it's called an illegal spritz in comedy, but it is just the truth also, of course, because I don't really write jokes. I just, observe them. But like when a football coach loses a game, football coaches, that's all their life is. They have no other life. They all just live for it. I mean, Bill Belichick now has a 23-year-old girlfriend, but trust me, for all the 40 years he was coaching, he did not because Tom Brady was his girlfriend. So when they lose a game, it is just the worst. But they force themselves to walk across that field and put out their hand. They seek out the winning coach. Nice game, Andy.
Yeah.
And that is what this man can never do with elections. And, he jokes about maybe after this one, and is it really a joke? See, this is my thing with my friends on the right. I keep saying to them, you guys say your big theory is he just says a lot of shit. Okay, we're going to put the says a lot of shit doctrine to the test because that's not good enough for me. People who say shit usually do it.
Yeah.
And,
And I don't know that a lot of people that voted for him heard some of the shit that he was saying, because he just yammers on with that word salad,
that's his superpower.
I know,
that
it is.
He's so all over the map about everything that nobody takes him literally about anything, which is the biggest advantage a politician could ever have.
Yeah.
You don't really believe what I'm saying anyway. You just trust me that I have the instincts of, let's not live in crazy town, and we won't get over there again.
Okay.
Let's not live in Jon Cryerville. Wink, wink.
It's fun in Jon Cryerville. all I can tell you.
Is it? You think you have a fun life? Yeah, you probably do.
I have
I'm
a great
sure
life.
you do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you've been married twice?
Yes. That's immediately what you go to. You're like, wait, you've been married twice, and you actually had fun? Wait a minute. Wait, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to go through this a little bit. Yes, I have been married twice. I have 2 kids.
From the same marriage, or
No, I had a son in my first marriage, and another with my second.
How long was the first marriage for?
4 years.
4 years. That's not about the right time for a start. I've heard the term. Now, I don't want to cast aspersions, but I've heard people use the term starter marriage.
And
I think it's not an aspersion on the person so much as that you're usually young when you do it, so you don't know enough about being a person.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't get married for great reasons, and that happens, and that's nobody, I don't want to say it's nobody's fault because you did it, so it's your fault. But at the same time, as you get older, things change, and you had, you saw a situation a certain way, and you said, okay, this is the best thing to do, and sometimes it just wasn't. So,
Yeah, I mean, when I think back at what I would call the vulnerable years, when I did get engaged once when I was 29, and I always got my toe out of the trap, but boy, it almost happened a few years later, and I would have been so unhappy, and it would have fucked up everything. I mean, somehow I've done so many stupid things, but somehow that lodestar, like knowing that I am just not the kind of person who could be married, I at least kept to that, and that was correct. But
that's fair.
Like so much else, I would just like,
and
I always say to myself, when I live my life over, I'm sure not going to do that because that was so stupid.
And interestingly, I do think that there is definitely a societal stigma to not getting married and to not having children. That people judge people. I'm certainly judging you right now. No, I'm not. But I don't think it's fair. I think people.
That was great.
Okay.
That was hysterical.
I think if people know that about themselves, and it doesn't mean they're shallow. It doesn't mean that they don't have empathy or don't understand people or don't understand the human experience or whatever. I think those are ridiculous stigmas.
Thank you. I mean, it used to be much more, I think, of what you're describing now as far as what an outlier it was in society. I remember on Politically Incorrect in the 90s, but again, this is the 90s, it was a little bit of you're a weirdo if you never got married. I feel like it just became, no, so many more people are doing it, by the way. It's just a life choice. And we do get more, especially with social media and that fucking magic light box that transfixes everyone and addicts everyone and changes our brain chemistry, basically. It's harder to connect and stay like married and
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. I mean, our attention spans just aren't there.
You just can't pay attention to the same person for that long.
I mean, well, that is a big problem with marriage is
Mm.
that, I mean, that is the main problem. People can pretend it's other problems, but it's just hard to be with the same human being, no matter how, no one is that scintillating. I mean, I'm not. I just don't think anyone is, and that to me was a main reason why I never got married. Is like that model is not going to work, so I'm going to find other models. Literally.
Literally.
We'll be right back.
Boom. Yes. Although I have to say, I love being married to my wife. It is.
And that's another,
I am.
just a different personality type, and
It's
it's very. I envy that to a degree because it simplifies life.
It does in some ways, and also just having somebody else to go through life with,
Right.
like just to go through the times that are great. Like you're going to say, I just had the best interview with Jon Cryer, to an empty house. No, full of models, I'm sure. But
it's not exactly empty right this minute,
Oh, okay.
but sometimes. But I live alone and like living alone, and I don't know if that is something that you could ever change about yourself. You just have to recognize it about yourself. I did have that instinct early on. It was the correct instinct. It just has everything to do, as everything does, with when your personality is formed in those first few, some would say months, but years of life. You're pretty much, at least this is what the experts tell us, set. And I certainly have known parents who have said to me, right away what this kid is like at like 1 or 2. Like, oh, that's a wild one.
Yeah.
And I don't have that experience, but I
Mm.
think that's probably right. So it's just kind of what your personality is. I think politics is something that much more comes out of personality. You're a Republican. Yeah, you're a Republican because you're a square. That's your personality,
Mm.
not you. I'm not saying, but like,
But
certainly in the old days, when I was a kid, the Republicans were more the country club types.
yeah. Well, now they're the fire breathing.
It's kind of switched up.
Destroy the
Right.
establishment. Let's
The Democrats got to be the elitists. They're.
But again, I don't agree with that.
But that's what America. But
I get it. I
we
get
don't.
it. That
I know you
That's
don't.
the right wing framing.
But that's how.
right there.
It's not right wing framing. That's
Okay.
your indoctrination. You've got to
here
get
we
out
go.
of
Here we
MSNBC
go.
all day
I
long.
don't watch on MSNBC.
Well, they're watching you.
Okay.
Because you're
Rachel.
channeling them.
Gosh.
I mean, that is not right wing framing.
Yes,
That's
it
just how
is.
America sees
No,
it.
I'm sorry, but the pro-union party, the Democrats,
The Democrats are not seen as the working party
they're
anymore.
not seen as it because of the right-wing framing, Bill Maher.
That is part of it,
So,
of course.
yes, that is part
But
of
they're
it.
going to take advantage of that. Yes, you're right. There is a certain amount of that you would expect the opposition party to try to take advantage of, but they give them these openings. Yeah, do I understand why Sherrod Brown, who's very pro-union, lost in Ohio, where there's a lot of union jobs?
Mm-hmm.
Some of that is because of propaganda, and some of that is because they just didn't see what his championing got for them.
Well, but I'm going to say this one more time, and you're going to get so annoyed with me. And inflation hit very hard, and their salaries did not catch up. Boom. That's why.
You know what? Denzel has a great
I'm sorry?
quote.
Okay.
Denzel Washington. If you're looking for an excuse, you'll find one.
Yes. Well,
so inflation wasn't good, but like if you want to look at for excuses, you'll find it. If you want to look in the mirror and ever win an election again, follow me if you want to live.
Well, again, I'm not saying there should not be introspection. I think the Democrats and the left are too much are the kings of introspection. But no, I'm saying obviously we're in a different fight now because and by the way, I'm not a Democrat. I'm a registered independent.
Me too.
Okay, but I believe the fight now is to retain something of a democracy,
I mean,
something of a civil democracy.
I am an independent, but I've never voted for the Republicans.
Oh, I have. So that's how we're different. I really.
Who did you vote for?
I'm not going to say.
Okay,
but
that's
no, you
fair.
know what? I am going to say
No, no, it's
because it deserves some introspection on my part. It was Rudy Giuliani in New York City.
You don't have to be ashamed of it.
Well,
He was a good mayor.
He did change how New Yorkers felt about the city. He took problems that people felt were just intractable in New York City and made people feel like, oh, we can do something about these
It's so
things.
funny because
and that I'm grateful for.
What he did was unwoke some bullshit that was going on in the city. He was a
Wow.
Republican mayor. So it sounds like when these issues were in your life personally,
Oh,
you
you're
kind of liked it when the Rudy... Why is it... But okay, that's easy to do, but engage with the actual thought why it's wrong. Engage with that.
I'm sorry?
I'm saying it sounds like when you were living in New York,
okay.
and these issues impacted you directly,
these
then
issues
you like the
impact
Rudy
me
Giuliani.
directly now, and I'm not voting for Trump.
No, because you're richer now. You're rich.
So
you're not like on the street. But Rudy Giuliani, you liked him because he made New York more livable, which was less crime. You know.
Well, he
get the
did
squeegee guys.
They introduced broken windows policing, which at the time was supposedly statistically based, and you remember they had
Explain the theory.
The theory of broken windows was that by prosecuting petty crime, petty
like
quality
broken
of
windows.
Yes, quality of life crimes, like the guys who would squeegee your car whether you wanted them to or not.
Right.
That it increased an atmosphere of civility and lawfulness.
Right.
And to the extent that that some of that worked, but it also resulted in some very bad things. The stop and frisk policy that was incredibly racist and New York City has dealt with incredible racism over since its founding. And so I could say, yeah, it was nice not to have the squeegee guys, but again, the man has imploded as a human being, Rudy Giuliani.
What do you make of people like? I mean, there's so many people you think of, like Harvey Weinstein, Diddy, like people who are like at the summit, and then they're just in places now. I mean, Rudy's not exactly in jail, but he's certainly in show business jail. And I mean, Epstein, I mean, to go from like how they live to...
Yeah, Giuliani was revered for decades. He was America's mayor.
He ran for president on that.
Yes. And yeah, again, I don't know why the people in Trump's orbit gather there and are dismantled and destroy their lives and throw their lives away to be loyal to this man. I don't understand it. My understanding with Rudy in his case was that he actually has a serious drinking problem. Again, I don't know. I don't call it defamation because I don't know for sure, but that's the story.
That is brooded about.
Yes. So it could be that. I don't know. I don't know. Again, I don't get the appeal of Trump as a politician in any respect. But obviously, I'm outvoted, literally. So I'm certainly not the kind of politician it's worth throwing your life away on. But plenty of people are lining up to do it.
No one has been harder on Donald Trump, or tweeted at me a million times, never complimentary. But I do understand. I certainly understand why he won, and we don't have to go back over that.
Yeah.
Some of it was what the Republicans do, but they ran a smarter campaign, as they often do, and some of it's what the Democrats do. But there are moments where I look at him and he'll do something where I go, first of all, I understand why it works, but then sometimes I actually like it. Like when he was talking the night he won, he was talking about the Elon's rocket that came back and they caught it. He's like, can Russia do it? Can China do it? No. America did it, and it took it. And I was like, yeah, you know what? That's not bad to me. that someone likes America and is proud that we can do something amazing like that nobody else can do. Now, does this make up for the other myriad? Of course not. I'm just saying that there, I thought it was good that he moved the capital of Israel to Jerusalem. And if he does something
That you mean
in the new term,
yeah,
the
embassy. But what?
The
But now,
embassy.
what do you like about that? Just out of curiosity.
Jerusalem?
Yeah.
Well, it's been the Jewish capital for like 2,500 years.
Years, yeah.
No,
I'm legitimately curious.
Oh, okay.
I'm not. This isn't a gotcha.
I mean,
not trying to.
there's no reason why every other country in the world gets to have their capital where they want it, and every American administration promised they would do it, and then just pocket vetoed it and forgot about it for 4 years. It was the right thing to do. Again, in a sea of things I didn't agree with, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to judge anything until it happens. This country needed a slap in the face and a colonic. He would not be the guy I would have chosen to deliver the colonic, but I get the need for the colonic. It's not like we're not bloated and sclerotic and wrapped up in a lot of dumb things that we do. And we'll see. I mean, they're disruptors. They certainly got that. That's what the Democrats asked for when they invited this disaster. Is now we'll find out what it's like to have Bozo the Clown be the Secretary of Education. It's so beyond parody.
Yes, the circus is literally in town with the Trump cabinet. But it is interesting because to me, it makes it all the more clear that the Republican project for the last 50 years is to delegitimize and dismantle the United States federal government. And they've said that. I mean, you've got Grover Norquist. Not
dismantle, but Grover Norquist once said, "Strangle it in the bathtub."
Exactly.
That's too far, but is it super bloated? Yes. Even Al Gore back in the day was put in charge of doing what Elon exactly says he's going to do now. So they got it back in the 90s that this thing is out of control. Government is completely out of control. But I believe also true.
I believe it's a Trojan horse just to dismantle the things that they don't like. Yes. That's what
I'm saying. My issues are the environment and democracy.
Yes.
And the environment my issue is going to suffer horribly because these clowns are in there.
You're right. What on earth are you putting in there? What is this?
That's something Bill Cosby gave me. I didn't ask.
Wait, what could go wrong?
It's Cosby's finest. Look.
Oh my God!
Let's not judge him just because it's 79 accusations.
Yes, 79 rapes or whatever. Okay. Well, God bless you. You don't have to tell me.
So, what's your relationship with Charlie now? I'm not saying he's don't connect those two.
No, it's like, wow, okay, that's a segue.
Because it made me think of him. I don't think he's a rapist. But he's done other bad things.
I don't know. We don't have a relationship anymore.
That's a shame.
I wish him the best. We have some mutual friends still, and I've heard he's been sober for a while, which is great to hear. I know that he has reconnected with Chuck Lorre, who was the producer of my show, and that their friction was what broke up. What caused that huge conflagration on the show.
Why were they fighting?
They were fighting. Well, it was really sad. Actually, it was incredibly tragic because Charlie was relapsing at the time. Chuck, has been very upfront.
And there was a period where he was sober.
Yes, he was sober for the first few seasons of the show.
For the whole time.
The whole time, as far as I know. I mean, obviously, I'm not the police.
I had dinner with him in 2010. And he was completely sober.
Yeah, and he was proud of his sobriety.
And charming.
And incredibly charming and smart and great at what he does.
Right.
Absolutely a wonderful comedian, gifted with his timing. I mean, I loved working with him. We had a great time.
Yeah.
But he started, after his marriage went south with Denise, he started having, clearly he was using again. And he started, on the show, he was still very professional. He was good to work with. But what happened was he started having these things happen. He got arrested at the Plaza Hotel for trashing the room. He got
Right.
arrested in Colorado for fighting with his
Locked hookers in a
wife.
closet.
Yes, that was the Plaza. And
He was beating hookers with other hookers.
I don't know what happened.
No,
but he
he is Houdini. The fact that he could get a Super Bowl ad
yeah.
after all the things that he's in the press for doing, some of them on tape.
Well, because it's oddly he has a brand. He has the brand that is
Bad
him.
boy.
Exactly. And that's one of the
Right.
reasons that Trump gets away with what he gets away
Correct.
with. He has the brand and it's
You're
on
right.
brand. I mean, part of the reason that Biden suffered so much after the Afghanistan withdrawal was it was off brand. It was a mess. And up to that point, remember, he was
Right.
polling incredibly well.
Right.
But then it was this, oh no,
Right.
they don't actually have a handle on this. At any rate, with Charlie, what happened with the show was he fell off the wagon. It was obvious. They were doing all kinds of things to sort of work around it. He was missing days on the set. He would still show up on Friday night, and he knew his lines, and he was ready to go, and he could do the show, but he was barely functioning. And Chuck, who's been very upfront about his own struggles with alcohol, was confronting him and saying, "You need help. You have to do something." And Charlie, just said, "No, I don't." And that became the big
Was
thing.
that the period where there was a tremendous publicity blitz where he was like Tiger Blood and he was just on something ever?
Well, what caused that was that that Chuck said, "You need to get help." Charlie said, "No, I'm not going to." He said, "Well, no." You know what he did was he said, "I'm going to do it for a week," and then he said, "Then I want to go back to the show." It didn't make any sense at the time, but I think it makes sense to me now. He was already having monetary issues at the time, which is astonishing because he was the highest. He remains the highest paid actor in television. So he needed the show to go forward. So he was furious, and Chuck shut down the show. And so that was what became the flashpoint. And eventually he got fired because of all the Tiger Blood nonsense and he was doing anti-Semitic shit, and it was just like, what the fuck is happening here?
I remember doing a thing about that, and my main thesis, as I recall, was, okay, you can say you're the greatest rock star of all time, and you're this great vampire with tiger blood, but you're on a sitcom on the old people's network.
On CBS, exactly. And
it's not like the rock star. It's good,
exactly.
I have the highest respect for people like who are do something that like has just huge mass appeal, like which I will never do. And I'm okay with that. Everyone has their great niche. I love where I am. But I will never have that. I mean, it wouldn't be right for me anyway. But Taylor Swift, I don't get that. But, I have total respect because Trump, you got this tremendous army of people to either watch your show for years. It was one, like every year, wasn't it? Like one.
Yeah, it did great.
That's there's a certain like automatic respect you have to get for success in my book, even if it's not what I would watch or do or vote for.
Mm-hmm.
You move people.
Yes, there was absolutely, we had a lane that really worked. And I was really proud of it, and we had a wonderful time. And again, he was really good to me, but when the breakdown happened, that's when he just started lashing out at everybody, including me. And so obviously the friendship broke down. And years later, he came asking, he wanted to reboot the show, and this is after we had already done it with Ashton for a couple of years, and I said, no, I don't. This doesn't make any. I don't. That's a roller coaster I don't want to get back on.
Right.
Thank you very much. And then he started going into social media and acting like I was begging him to do the show again, which I was like, oh, that's just not cool.
Oh.
But
Oh.
And it's frustrating to me because he still keeps up the Tiger Blood persona socially on social media and stuff. And
He's been sued for his blood.
I know, but he is, to my understanding, he's been sober for a while. And the mutual friends that we have, and again, and he and Chuck Lorre, as I said, they've reconnected, and he actually appeared on Chuck's most recent show on HBO.
You're going to wind up all working together again. Every band gets back together when the demand is enough. Mike Tyson just got back in the ring. He's 1,000 years old.
Oh God!
He looked like my Uncle Phil in there.
Yes, he had about 2 rounds of like a little fire in him, and then it was nope, gone. Done for the evening. But yeah, again, I like him and I wish the best for him, and I'm really glad he's sober. And if you have him on the show, you'll have a great time.
I would.
And you'll have a great show.
I've been trying to have him.
And
I would. No, really, I would love to.
But working with him in any kind of a regular capacity, I will not do again.
I'll tell you.
I'll do a one-off, sure. But I wish him the best.
That dinner that we had, it was about 20 tennis. I think it was 6 people. We had a mutual friend. So it was him and his girlfriend, me and the girl I was with at the time, and Charlie and Brooke, the wife.
Yes.
Yeah. The one who held the knife to her throat. Again,
Jesus.
This guy gets a Super Bowl. Anyway, so at the end of the evening, I go for my wallet, and he's like, and he throws down, I remember it was at the time, you couldn't get like 1 round of drinks for this probably now, and I think it was at the Polo Lounge. He throws down $600 bills. I guess the bill was 500 or 400, whatever it was. And ever since then, this girl and I, whenever we would be someplace and we want to get out quickly, we would say, "I'm just gonna sheen it."
He's become a verb.
And sheen it means like you throw down cash
get
and you're out. This is more than it is, and plus I'm gone. And
yes.
So he's a cool dude. I mean, the charisma is there.
He is absolutely charismatic. And what's great about that and what's lousy about that is all encased in one being,
Yeah.
And, and again, I'm going to say it one more time, I really wish him well. I loved working with him when it was good.
You'll be working together again because it becomes, it
becomes a thing.
It's a force in the universe. And also, there was an undeniable, like, uber chemistry that probably cannot be extinguished. I mean, people can drift, but I don't know if that isn't so innate that it wouldn't always be there. And then they'll offer you the right money, and like, everybody loves money. I mean, you're not so woke you don't love money.
No. But now, in the future, whenever you think of the woke people that you're really mad at, it's me. I want to put that face on it. This is the one right here. Just say Jon Cryer. Actually, whenever you say that, it was Jon Cryer who brought us to this awful pass.
No.
He's the one who did it.
It's every Hollywood actor who sits there.
Yeah.
Bryan Cranston. I love him.
Bryan Cranston is a fucking genius.
But you and he is a genius.
He is a genius.
But you and he are like exactly. So there's a certain belief that like the Hollywood community has, and it's cool. I just want to.
It's cool.
We voted for the same. We voted for the same person.
We voted for the same people. It's about unity. Well, this is reaching across the divide right here.
We're on the same side of the divide.
Yes,
that's the thing.
Yes,
the divide is over there.
Yeah. It's going to be.
We're fighting about how to fight the divide.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
And
team up, be the Avengers. The woke Avengers, you and me. Come on, Bill.
That's the show. The woke Avengers with Mr. Purity and Mr. Pragmatism.
Yes, there we go.
Well, I probably should not have let the conversation drift so far into the political, but I must say, having not really known you at all, I had no idea you were this up on everything. And obviously you're involved and informed and read a lot. And, the people who actually still read, we are becoming like monks. We're, a small
specific
group.
order.
I saw in the news this week, this was frightening, like who got their information about the election from where.
Yeah.
It's now a fifth of the country. I freaked out when it was like Facebook influencer.
Yes. TikTok.
A
Yeah.
fifth of the country.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
But like, Jake Paul and the Call Me Daddy lady or whatever. That's like, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. And who knows? You know what? I'm not even going to judge it because it's not like the establishment knocked it out of the park.
Well, I don't mind, like I was one of the a few people who were saying that we felt like, Kamala should reach out to Joe Rogan, absolutely, because I feel like those podcasts and sit down things like this are long form. It's much less about sound bites. It's people can talk and relate as humans, and I think that ecosystem is actually great and can be. I don't mind if people call Joe Rogan an influencer. It's like, okay, I think he asks fair questions. I think he asks really dumb questions a lot of time too, but that's fair.
That's okay.
That's fair. And I remember I got into a little Twitter spat with him at one point because he was getting his information from InfoWars. I was like, okay, first and foremost, that's probably not a great place to get your information. But anyway. But I do think there can be a good thing from that. I do think that can. I listened to some of Theo Von's interview with Trump, and I thought, okay, this is interesting because it was the first time that I had heard, and Trump is awful and he's terrible. But it was interesting to hear him relate in a much more human fashion. Interestingly, I thought, okay, that is, I believe, an actually valuable piece of information.
So that Joe Rogan and Elon Musk, not that long ago, were much further to the left. They were what you would.
I don't know how much they believe. Yeah.
No. Well, that's what my friend Sam Harris would call leftist mind reading. I'm going to take them at their word, not what you can divine that they're really thinking. Just trust me. Joe Rogan and Elon Musk 5 years ago, Elon Musk was a hero of the left for the electric car. Then they got mad at him for being too rich. They drove them. And I might say my friend Barry Weiss at the New York Times, although I don't think she's a Trumper, but they drove people, certainly in the case of Rogan and Musk, into the other camp. Rogan, they tried to cancel once. They didn't like that he was asking questions about the vaccine. That makes you a persona non grata. And Musk, he believes he lost a child to the woke mind virus. Okay, I'm just saying this is what they believe. The difference between me and them is they've done the same kind of things to me, but I'm not going anywhere. I'm not joining the other team. I'm not that guy. Very often they try to think,
yeah, but I will say about Elon Musk is I don't believe for a moment that he gave a shit about free speech. He gave a shit about free speech to the point where it suited his needs.
I think at the time,
he never did.
I think you're totally right that he absolutely reneged on his promise. His promise was to make Twitter a place which had been too much controlled by the left, fair middle ground, and he just turned it completely right. Okay. I think he just, at the time he bought Twitter, I think he wanted to do that, and then he said, no, this is more important, because, again, he's consumed by this idea that he lost a child.
Again, I believe he's an asshole and full of shit, but
I don't think he's. But again, he's not either of those things.
And I also, by the way, and we can go into how he built Tesla on fraud for years and years and years. We can talk about that.
Well, I don't even know about that.
Oh, you don't? Actually,
fraud? What fraud?
Because the way that tech works, and this is a very long conversation. It sounded like you were trying to wind down. The way that tech works is there's very often the concept of vaporware. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but software companies used to do a thing where they would announce some big new product to forestall competition from other companies, but they never were actually going to deliver the new product. And it was a way to keep their stock price up and keep the company afloat, because remember, most of the software companies, couldn't keep themselves afloat just on sales. There were huge outlays of money. They, like Amazon or a lot of these tech companies, rather.
And they call this what? Vaporware?
Vaporware. It was basically it was promising things that you
Yes,
couldn't fulfill.
I get it.
And Musk did that for years to keep his stock price high, to keep the company going. Now, again,
Isn't that every company?
well, except I believe he was the P.T. Barnum that the electric vehicle market needed, because he lied about the range of Teslas at first. He set
Got it done.
but he got it done.
An electric car.
But again, I believe he was the P.T. Barnum that the industry needed.
He slept at the factory for like 2 years.
Again, that's a little bit of corporate mythology, but and the people at the factory did not want him around.
Okay, but it seems quibbly about a great person doing a great. Okay, maybe he's not a great person. We'll find out. But he did a great thing for a cause that we both think is important.
I will give him that. I agree that electric vehicles and electrification is incredibly important, and that he made huge milestones, and that that the fact that he was willing to defraud America about the range of electric vehicles worked. It got him open because Americans were worried about range anxiety. Do you recall that? Let me.
I mean,
again, nuance is important sometimes. Bill Maher.
I get the nuance. I get the nuance. I'm just saying, it's like, you know what? When Thomas Jefferson bought the Louisiana Purchase, there was nothing legal about it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes great men just do great things because they know it's the great thing to do. Am I really exercised that he exaggerated the mileage range of a Tesla? I am not.
My point being that that he brought sort of the gift for showmanship and fraud, frankly, to the electric vehicle industry, and he created a great company. I believe Tesla is a great American company, and I'm grateful that he
created three great companies. He's got.
He didn't create Tesla, by the way.
Starlink.
Actually, he did not create Tesla, and he took it from the guys who actually did create it. But SpaceX, you're thinking, and Starlink, and again, he was a very wealthy guy by the time he was a part of the start of those companies. But at any rate, and also, by the way, an undocumented immigrant. So when you're angry at the immigrants and the Democrats letting waves of immigrants over, Elon Musk was one of those people. We wouldn't have Tesla. We wouldn't have SpaceX.
I'm not angry.
We wouldn't have Starlink.
I'm not angry at immigrants, and never said I was.
Okay. But again, you're saying
I'm angry at Democrats for losing the election by botching that issue.
Okay.
I don't blame any person for getting to this country. That's, of course, the whole world wants to get to this country. I get it. It's up to this country to make sure that is a little more orderly than it has been. And people understood that. Like regular people. Yes, the ones I'm more connected to than you.
Yes,
because
of course.
You're a Hollywood.
Because I'm a Hollywood guy.
You are.
But you're in your Beverly Hills house.
Yeah, I am.
We're in the basement doing your basement podcast of your Beverly Hills house. But I'm the guy out of touch with the working man. What are you working on? Are you working on your car in the garage? Are you like a grease monkey here?
You know what? Just because you have money doesn't mean you're out of touch. I mean,
I agree.
Trump has money, and they find him much more in touch.
Which is hilarious because he's
Some
not.
of it is hilarious, yes. Some of it is hilarious.
Yes.
But, I mean, again, I'm not going to lose my shit until they do it. I did that the first time. I'm not going to do it again. He could blow up the world on the first day. That's true. But I'm just going to judge everything they do. It's a gang of disruptors. You hate Elon just because, people you talk about demonization.
And
it's
I don't
there's
hate
this
him.
Gang of
Everybody
on this side is evil, and everyone on this side just has to be taken down. They can't do anything good. I mean, it looks petty because he has done so many amazing things. And maybe he wasn't, there's always a story about somebody who wasn't, like, he didn't actually do that.
Well, but if he abetted a guy, a strongman dictator of the United States who if he abetted that, that's a bad thing.
Yes, it is.
That's a bad thing,
Yes, it
Bill
is.
Maher.
You're right. I could not agree more.
Okay.
I could not agree more.
So that was what I was pointing out.
Not just abetted. I mean, he might be recorded in history as the guy who got Trump elected. I mean, I think
Maybe.
Trump would have won anyway because the people. We won't
We've
go into
been
that again.
over that.
Yeah. But I mean, this guy, to throw his weight the way he did, Twitter alone, he's like the main dude on Twitter, and but just a lot of the country sees him as Tony Stark. And
You're
it's
not
like,
wrong. Yeah.
wow, Trump and Tony Stark are now, Batman and Robining it. It's just like, you see these pictures of them. You saw the one on the plane with Robert Kennedy being force-fed a cheeseburger. It was hysterical. And it's like, okay, I didn't vote for them again, but like, wow, there's this new bro gang in town. And they're like kind of cool. I mean, I could see how. Well, I know, because you can't see anything past.
I can't see anything past the bear murder of Robert Kennedy. Robert Kennedy's bear debacle.
I don't think he murdered a bear.
No, I know. He just decided to frame a New York City cyclist for the death of a bear.
I forgot what the bear story was.
The bear story. Do you want me to go into the bear story?
Yeah,
it was Central Park. It was basically he claims that he was in upstate New York, found a dead bear on the side of the road. Okay.
In upstate New York?
Yes, in upstate New York. And then he took the said dead bear, put it in his car, which not what I do, but whatever. Okay. Then decided to drive through Manhattan to Peter Luger's and have dinner with the dead bear in his car.
In the trunk.
Then he realized, oh my gosh, I got to go to the airport. What am I going to do with the dead bear in my car? I also happen to have an old bike in my car, so I'm going to, and he had recently heard about that cyclists had been going apparently too fast in Central Park and had been endangering joggers, supposedly. So he said, okay, I'm going to put this dead bear and the bike, and it'll look like some cyclist hit this poor bear,
and then he goes into Central Park?
And then he goes into Central Park.
To dispose of the bear?
He disposes of the bear and the bike. And this comes out as a news story because they find a bear in the middle of Central Park. It's like, what the fuck is a bear doing in the middle of Central Park? And that was in like 2014. And now that he was running for president, he said, I got to get ahead of this. So he mentions it to Roseanne Barr on video. Again,
this country
is...
Okay, so
bazonker.
Wait, but are you saying the scandal is that he actually really killed the bear, that the bear is Mary Jo Kopechne in this scenario? Is that what you're saying?
That is not what I was suggesting.
Okay.
I was just suggesting that it is a particularly tortured mental state that you have to be in to say, you know what makes sense? To frame a cyclist for this dead bear. I mean, I don't.
Well, it's not a specific cyclist.
No, you're right.
He wasn't hurting another person. It
was defaming cyclists in general, and I've been a cyclist, as us woke folks are known to be.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And thus, in our tight little cycling shorts.
Do you have the "In This Home We Believe" lawn sign?
No, I don't have that.
I have one here. I wanted to give it to you. It's a parting gift.
Oh, thank you. It's in the goodie bag.
Well,
the Bill Maher goodie bag.
For two guys who don't agree on much, you made me laugh.
Oh, good.
Like continually.
Okay.
I'm sure as much as you probably hate me now.
I don't hate you.
I know.
There's no hatred.
Good. Me neither. Much as we disagree, I think you would at least give me this, that my laugh is genuine.
Yes, you're laughing. Yes,
I do not laugh like a talk show host.
Well, thank you. That's kind of you to say, and I've enjoyed my time a lot, and I enjoyed doing politically correct back in the day.
Who can make each other laugh, probably, find a way to agree on more than they disagree. But we'll just say it's the beginning chapter.
Yes. of our love relationship. Wait a minute. That went in a
All
weird
right.
direction. My
Great
pleasure.
to be on the back of this train with you. me and,
Yes, thank
me
you,
and
America.
Vice President Garfield pledged to America.
Garfield got assassinated, by the way. He got shot
And then
in a train
Chester
station.
A. Arthur is the one who took over, right?
Yes, I believe.
All right.
So,
Vice President Arthur and I.
after you.
All right.
Hopefully,
Now they'll
we
wanna-
both have careers after this.